Smoke on the borders, ash in the morning sky, black flags on the hilltops, but hope still learning how to rise. A hobbit with shaking hands, pocket full of simple things, carrying a world of weight on a thin and shining ring. Light against the shadow, fire against the cold, step by trembling step, the quiet hearts grow bold. From the Shire to the high roads where the dark wind sings, we are standing, we are singing for the Lord.
That's all, Valiants. Welcome back to another video. We are going to continue with our Middle-earth journey. So, let's see what's going to happen next.
Among the tales of sorrow and of ruin that come down to us from the darkness of those days, there are yet some in which amid weeping there is joy, and
Who's
under
that?
the shadow of death light that endures. And of these histories,
Kinda looks like... Is this... No, this is not Aragorn and the elf girl, is it? It's way too early.
most fair, still in the ears of the elves, is the tale of Beren and Luthien.
Ooh, Beren and Luthien. Is this going to be a romantic thing?
We pick up our story in the immediate aftermath of the Dagor Bragollach, 2 years after the initial conflict had devolved into a stalemate.
Okay.
The Isle of Tol-Sirion bore upon it the finely wrought fortress of Minas Tirith, which had resisted this initial assault under the capable stewardship of Orodreth, nephew of Finrod. Still, the island, which guarded one of the most assailable routes into Beleriand, was never far from the gaze of Morgoth. So the Dark Lord sent his most able servant.
Ooh, Sauron. Damn. Whew.
The greatest of the Maya who turned aside from the light, Sauron.
Maya. Is that what it, the Maya. Is that like a god thing?
To take it.
Don't remember now. Like, no, the Valar.
Orodreth could not withstand the assault, despite his best efforts, and withdrew from the island to Nargothrond with what forces now remained to him. What had once been a fair isle was despoiled by Sauron, and would be known as Tol-in-Gaurhoth, a haven for his werewolves, a home to foul magic. On this Isle of the Werewolves, Sauron began to consolidate his power with his two mightiest servants, Drauglin, the sire and mightiest of the werewolves, and his very herald, the vampire Thorinwethil. However,
Vampires. So there are werewolves and vampires. Damn.
in the highlands of Dothonion, the resistance of Barahir and his companions was unrelenting, despite their increasingly difficult situation. The outlaw band consisted of Barahir's son Beren, his nephews Baragund the Elder and Belegund the Younger, Raruin, Dairuin, Dagnir, Ragnar, Arthad, Urthel, Hathaldir the Young, Gildor, and Gorlim the Unhappy. This group caused untold damage to the forces of Morgoth in the area from their base of operations in Tarn Eluin, infuriating the servants of the Dark Lord. In response, they were unrelenting in their attempts to hunt down the final remnants of this proud people.
Yeah. But how long can they actually last? Like, they have lost a lot of soldiers there. Like, they are so stubborn to, like, stay in this homeland that they lost, like, most of them in.
Their methods were brutal, as they effectively treated their prey as mere animals, but they were continually frustrated in each attempt to bring Barahir's band to retribution. The company continued to fight for some 5 years, killing an immense number of the orcs. Yet this could not continue indefinitely, as courage alone could not turn back the unending orcish tides that desolated their homeland.
Yeah.
In FA 460, one of the last men of Ladros left in Dothonion, Gorlim, son of Angrim, went out to hunt while the company was camped in the south of Ladros.
Okay.
Before the coming of the Great Flame, this had been Gorlim's home, and while out on the hunt, he went to see the ruin of what had once been his home. He gazed through a window and was treated to a vision of his wife, Elinel, who was supposedly dead. This vision had dire consequences for Barahir's company, as Gorlim decided to search for his wife in his heartbroken state. He came out of hiding
Oh
and was soon
no.
waylaid and taken captive by orcs, who brought him in chains before the lieutenant of the Dark Lord, Sauron.
Oh.
The latter's cunning in those days was unmatched, and he poured honeyed words into this forlorn man of Ladros, promising that Eilinel would be returned to him. All that would be required of him was to give up the location of his friends. With a heavy heart.
Yo, Sauron is dirty. By the way, where's his armor? Is this what Sauron looks like without his armor on?
Gorlim agreed and revealed the position of Barahir and his companions.
Yo, that's so dirty. Damn. Oof. Damn. That's like insane.
It seemed that in these days, betrayal could only be rewarded with further betrayal. Sauron told Gorlim that the vision he had come across was naught more than a spectre that he had devised. His wife, the most precious thing Gorlim had believed to be left to him, was already dead. Nonetheless, I will grant thy prayer, said Sauron, and thou
Is it
shalt
going
go
to
to
kill him?
Eilinel and be free of my service. And so Gorlim was executed without mercy, as Sauron turned his eyes upon one of the greatest thorns in the side of the armies of
Whoa.
Morgoth. Sauron's
Damn.
forces ambushed the men of Barahir upon
I
the
can't say that Gordon doesn't deserve it. Like, dude, you are so stupid.
Etana Luid,
Damn.
as they were slain to a man, except for Barahir's son, Beren.
Beren.
Fortunately for father and son alike, Beren had been engaged in an errand away from the camp when the orcs assaulted and brutally destroyed the company. Beren
Okay.
came upon the remains of his father and was stricken with grief. He knew that such a great man required a fitting burial. Yet his father's hand had been severed, and with it, the greatest heirloom of their house, the Ring of Barahir, was lost, without any chance of reclamation. As Beren set himself to the task of raising a cairn for his fallen father, Gorlim appeared before him as a spectre. The traitor revealed his misdeeds and attempted to make amends.
Is this another vision of Sauron, or is this like the ghosts in Lord of the Rings?
Informed Beren of what had happened to the ring, and then bid him farewell before returning hopefully to the side of his slain wife. With this information in hand, Beren would return the favor in kind for his orcish foes. He hunted down the orc band responsible for the murder of his father and friends, killing the orc chieftain Gorgol the Butcher. In doing so, he achieved what solace he could attain given the circumstances, and reclaimed his father's severed hand, with the Ring of Barahir with it. In the aftermath of this successful ambush, Beren would make a life for himself as he slaughtered many of Morgoth's servants. He became a friend of the birds and animals of the forest during his 4 years in which he acted as a solitary outlaw. Beren would not hunt or kill any of these beasts, reserving his strength at arms solely for the servants of Morgoth. This son of Barahir feared not the final embrace of death, only
So does he just live off berries or something?
That he would
or is he eating orc flesh?
be taken captive by those he sought to receive the ever-growing price now put on his head. His position within the only land he had known as home became untenable when Sauron began to pursue him. A price had been placed upon his head by Morgoth, which was matched by the bounty placed upon the crowned head of Fingon Felagund.
Yo, that is a chat thing. Imagine the Dark Lord himself has like a bounty on you directly. A human, like that's insane. The Dark Lord wants you dead this badly. Like it's like you cannot be allowed to live.
Beren proved so effective in
That's
his guerrilla
badass.
tactics that Sauron was granted an army to track down the last of Barahir's company. He would supplement this force with werewolves, among them the greatest of their number, Draugluin, the sire of their kind, and such fell beasts that contained within their being spirits of a horrifying nature, which Sauron had bound within their bodies.
Damn.
Therefore, Beren was forced to flee south through the horrors of the Ered Gorgoroth and the forests of Nan Dorgotheb into Doriath, where he was able to reach the girdle of Melian. The Tol-in-Gaurhoth and
I'm
the
still curious, like, what happened to Ungoliant? Like, is he just dead or something?
Dongatheb in particular would have caused any lesser man's imminent and brutal slaughter. In this dark and terrible place, the offspring of Ungoliant now made their home, trapping all living beings who foolishly delved too deeply into the area.
Yo, so Ungoliant has kids now. Damn. Those spiders. Wait, is that... So the giant spiders comes from Ungoliant. So what's the name of the big spider in Lord of the Rings? I don't remember. The one Sam kills is... So it is confirmed now that that might actually be Ungoliant's child.
These spiders were monsters of such a dark and ancient nature that they were born in the long dark before the sun's rising, and they hunted Beren silently throughout his journey. Yet he would endure and make it through relatively unscathed to Doriath, where he would meet and become instantly entranced by Luthien. Luthien was a princess of the Sindar and the beloved daughter of the Elvish king Thingol and the Maya Melian.
Ooh.
This chance meeting would begin the greatest love story in all of the great ages of Middle-earth, while simultaneously setting in motion events that would have devastating consequences for the race of elves and the Edain. Luthien, also called Tinuviel, the Nightingale, by Beren, was known as the most beautiful of all the children of Iluvatar, embodying the grace and perfection most characteristic of the Elvish peoples in their heyday.
Damn.
She was the only daughter of one of the greatest Elvish kings in all Beleriand, and a being of immense power due to her mother being of the Maya. So it came as a shock to everyone that she fell in love with an Edain outlaw who had nothing more to his name than his courage and strength at arms.
Damn, so she's like the Megan Fox of Tolkien's universe.
The news garnered a particularly frosty reception from Thingol, who tacitly accepted their betrothal should Beren meet the bride price. This price, however, was one even a man of Beren's stature and courage could not possibly hope to attain, as Thingol wished to receive a Silmaril from Morgoth's Iron Crown in return for his daughter's hand.
Damn.
Beren had once known anguish and despair, yet Luthien provided the salve for such woe, and even faced with the impossible, Beren would not allow the darkness of his fate to overwhelm him. He said, "Do elven kings sell their daughters for gems and things made by craft? But if this be your will, Thingol, I will perform it. And when we meet again, I shall hold a Silmaril from the Iron Crown, for you have not looked upon the last of Beren, son of Barahir." With this talk of defiance, the quest of the Silmaril began, and Beren immediately made haste to Nargothrond. Here, he asked for the counsel of Finrod Felagund, the elf who owed his very life to Beren's forebear Barahir. Felagund knew that such oaths as the one he had sworn on that bloody day could not be set aside so quickly, and as such, he passed to his brother Orodreth the crown of Nargothrond. The sons of Feanor, who dwelled within his kingdom, Celeform and Curufin, watched proceedings keenly, as Finrod, Beren, and 10 loyal companions set out along the Narok, and travelled to its very source within the falls of Irvin. There they came upon and slaughtered a band of orcs. Afterward, Finrod utilized all of his craft to disguise the company as the now deceased orcs, to potentially pass through the Tol-in-Gaurhoth without being detected. Yet the cunning of Sauron was too great. Having had his suspicion aroused by their conduct, the greatest servant of the Dark Lord stripped the companions of their disguises and took them prisoner, following a long and protracted duel with Finrod through song. In the deepest pit of the fortress, Sauron sent his werewolves to devour the brave companions of Finrod one by one, to ensure they divulged the purpose of their quest.
Damn.
Yet they remained loyal. Before long, the only 2 survivors were Beren and Finrod. When the time came for Beren to be eaten, Finrod Felagund, unwilling to let the son of the man who had saved his life be murdered before his very eyes, attacked the werewolf with his bare hands. The struggle was fierce, with the unarmed Finrod eventually striking down his foe, though at a high cost, as he was mortally wounded in the encounter. In the deepest, darkest pit of the very fortress he had once constructed, one of the wisest and most beloved of the Noldor's life ended, but he kept his oath with his final breath. Hope had just been extinguished for
Wow.
the son of Barahir.
Yo, rest in peace. Damn. Yo, Finrod is awesome. I feel like a lot of these early elves were absolutely amazing, right? Like Fingolf and Finrod, like Myflos. They're all like really, really amazing guys. Except for Fëanor. Rest in peace. Freaking psychopath. The others here are pretty amazing. Damn.
Yet upon his capture, Luthien had felt a crushing weight upon her heart and set out in pursuit of her great love. Unfortunately, she met Noldorin princes Celegorm and Curufin alongside their hound Huan. The
Huan.
princes offered their help, but Celegorm fell in love with the princess, captured her, and took her to Nargothrond. Yet the great hound Huan had become entranced by the elf and spoke aloud for the first time. He granted her his counsel and helped her to escape.
Oh my
They made
god.
with great haste to Tol-in-Gaurhoth, arriving at the hour of Felagund's death. This arrival drew a cruel smile to the lips of Sauron, who foresaw the great reward he would receive for Luthien's capture. Morgoth would look upon his servant with great favor if he were to bring such a prize. Beren's quest now hung upon a knife's edge.
So some Morgoth likes women too, huh?
With no more than the hound of the Valar Huan standing in Sauron's way. In order to capture Luthien, Sauron sent all of his werewolves, including their great sire, Grauthul. Yet Huan would not yield.
Yo.
The great hound of the Valar gave not an inch, and slaughtered each and every assailant who came to take the woman he so deeply adored. Sauron watched on as his servants were brought low by the hound, and knew that the situation would require his own intervention. The future Dark Lord took the form of a great...
You know what, that scene of Huan, like, having, like, that werewolf in his mouth, it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. My dad had 2 white shepherds, and one day, one of my stepmom's friends came over. She had like this huge pit bull, and it was a bit aggressive. So we were a bit worried that having it outside playing with the other dogs. But we thought, hey, nothing. Let's just see how they do, right? And everything kind of seemed fine, because we were kind of worried that the pit bull would jump on this white shepherd that was a boy and girl, and harm them, because they were known to be really, really strong dogs. And all of us, like an hour went by, and all of a sudden we heard like a lot of how do you say it in English when a dog is like crying or like in pain? And it was so like all of us reacted and ran out, and my dad's white shepherd had this pit bull like Huan has that werewolf, and kind of realized that the pit bull had tried to jump on him, and then he had just grabbed it and then almost ripped up like its neck. It did survive, but we had to separate them and get the pit bull to the animal hospital immediately for it to survive. So yeah, damn.
Formidable wolf as he engaged Huan in combat. Yet even he could not defeat the Hound of the Valar, and was forced to yield the island. This left Tol-in-Gaurhoth in the hands of Luthien, who cleared the taint of the land and freed Beren. The pair then buried Finrod and left the island behind them. Unfortunately, now that the danger had seemingly dissipated, the ever-loyal Huan had to return to his master Celegorm, depriving them of a formidable ally in the struggle to come. Yet his loyalty was to be tested, as Celegorm and Curufin crossed paths with Beren and Luthien near the forest of Brethil. They aimed to kill Beren and take Luthien captive. However, Huen was unwilling to allow such a
Yo, I just talked about how so many gigachats of elves are left, and then these simps, just absolute incels, just ruins it.
whole act to be committed. Beren then took from Curufin his horse and knife, Angrist, and gave him permission to return to his people humbled. Yet the malice of Curufin remained, and he took from his brother his bow and fired upon Luthien, forcing Beren to dive before the arrow.
Yo!
Beren was wounded and was about to be killed,
Kill him.
but Huen drove off the brothers. He also brought with him a herb that Luthien used to save the life of her love. Following that, they returned to Doriath. In Doriath, Beren entrusted the life of Luthien to the guardianship of Huen, as he knew he had to return to the north to finish his quest of taking the Silmarils from the Dark Lord Gorgoth. He now believed this would be his final act, and as such, he sang the farewell song of parting, yet aid came unbidden as Huen and Luthien returned to his side. Huen spoke for only the second time, stating that Beren would no longer be able to save Luthien from her fate. From the shadow of death you can no longer save Luthien, for by her love she is now subject to it. So he allowed her to accompany him further, as they took upon themselves the guise of Draugluin and the bat-like messenger of Sauron, known as the Ringwithil, to pass through the Anfalglith without being accosted. As the pair reached the very gates of Angband, weary beyond belief, a previously unknown threat lay before them. Following the retreat of the elves from the Ard Gullen, a venomous new warden had been placed before the fortress, a wolf of immense proportions, Carcharoth, also called the Red Maw, who had already heard news of Draugluin's demise, and hence was suspicious of the pair. Yet Luthien, through her magic, was able to command the wolf to sleep, and the duo was able to descend to the very depths of Angband before coming face to face with the Dark Lord in his throne room. This hall, patrolled by Balrogs, was filled with horrors never witnessed before by the eyes of the free peoples, and the very strength of the gaze of Morgoth robbed Luthien of her disguise. Yet Luthien's courage shone through once more, as she was undaunted by the vile horrors which she now faced, and instead of cowering beneath the weight of her doom, she offered to sing for the Dark Lord. As she evaded his sight, she began to sing a piece of such unimaginable beauty and blinding power that Morgoth was forced to dream of the void, and alongside the rest of his court, fell into a deep, darkened slumber. Beren recognized what must be done, and put aside his disguise, taking from its sheath the blade of the son of Feanor, Angrist, and taking from Morgoth's crown a Silmaril. Yet this mere man deigned that if he could garner a single Silmaril, he could bring with him all three. His very blade,
this seems way too easy,
was to betray him, however. Angrist snapped with a sharp fragment of the finely wrought blade, striking the cheek of the Dark Lord, which caused him to arouse and awaken the legions of Angband from their slumber. The gravity of their situation became clear to Beren and Luthien immediately, which caused them to flee with all haste to the surface. Yet they had merely left the frying pan and emerged instantly into the flame, as Carcharoth, who was created to take on the Hound of the Valar Huen, was now awake and furious at the deception of Luthien. Beren attempted to drive him off using the light of the Silmaril, which momentarily tempered his rage with a sliver of fear. Yet this was not to last, as the blackened spirit of the beast drove him once more into a rage. Carcharoth grasped the right hand of Beren within his great maw, severing it and consuming the Silmaril. This seared the innards of the mighty wolf, and he fled south, emitting such howls of madness as to drive fear into the heart of any of the free peoples he was to encounter. According to our chronicler, so terrible did he become in his madness that all the creatures of Morgoth that abode in that valley fled far away, for he slew all living things that stood in his path, and burst from the north with ruin upon the world.
Damn.
Carcharoth was designed as such a beast of chaos and ruin that his very fangs were laced with a potent and fatal venom, which left Beren mortally wounded. The quest, it seemed, was to end in heartbreak and despair. Yet, unbidden, came Thorondor with his eagles, and from the blackened skies of the Anfalglith, they saved the duo from the grasp.
Yo, those eagles are carrying. Damn.
The legions of Angband. They bore Beren and Luthien south, passing above the glimmering jewel of the hidden city of Gondolin. Yet even this heartening sight could not assuage Luthien's despair for the imminent passing of the great love of her life.
Damn.
The eagles left the pair in the glade where they had first met in Doriath, and Huan came once more to their side. There they tended the son of Barahir, as he lay racked by dreams of such pain and anguish that a lesser man would have been taken by them. But as the despair of Luthien reached its apex, the eyes of Beren fluttered open, and he unexpectedly awoke. The name Erchemion, which meant the one-handed in Sindarin, was bestowed upon the most valorous of men. There they dwelt for a time in such happiness and joy, yet Beren could not set aside his oath to Thingol, and he returned Luthien to his father. News of their return had spread far and wide in the interim, so therefore, upon their arrival in Menegroth, they had garnered a sizable welcome. They recounted the tales of adversity and woe which had befallen them since they had initially departed. Astonished by the perseverance and strength a mere man had displayed in the face of an impossible task, Thingol softened in his attitude towards the son of Barahir. Now he held it in his thoughts that no power of elf or man, Maiar, Valar, or any other such being upon the face of Arda could stand between the fate of his daughter and this man of Dorthonion.
True, this proposal was definitely next level.
Before the very throne of her father, Beren took the hand of Luthien, and all seemed to be well for a time, yet their peace and joy were not to last.
Damn. Okay. Beren and Luthien. Interesting. Damn. So, yeah. So we got the Huan, the Hound of the Valar, back. And we got to see Sauron again. Damn. Yo, Sauron is like really, really old. I don't know how, like... I don't know, like... It's pretty insane to like think about like how long Sauron has been around. That's pretty nuts, honestly. Damn, yeah. It was a pretty cute love story between them. Yeah. Yeah. It was okay. I wouldn't call it the greatest love story though. But yeah, I would say that they fell in love pretty quickly, honestly. Yeah, pretty quickly sacrificed a lot for each other, and then also like the betrayal that happened between his companions, and that was pretty pathetic. So yeah, damn. And we got to see Ungoliant's offsprings. That's because it really confused me, like what happened to Ungoliant. And I still don't exactly know what happened. But since he's a huge spider shadow thingy, her kids, after she gave birth, her kids might actually have been feasting on her. I know spiders do that, so yeah, damn. Alright, the original video will be down in the description, guys. If you guys want to check some previous episodes, I will have a playlist up on screen. Otherwise, see you guys later.